This is the Voice of the Land podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in to this potential breaking news Voice of the Land extra here for you. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Arnold. Alongside me, as always, my brother, Nick Paulus, and our producer extraordinaire behind the proverbial glass, Peter Tellup. We are sponsored by DP Construction, LLC. Just as we were getting off of the podcast here today, and you guys can always listen to that on Google, Spotify, and Apple, and on YouTube at Voice of the Land Podcast, we were scrolling through Twitter, and we saw some news that is breaking across the country right now here in the Big Ten. It started before we jumped on, and we did forget to mention this on the podcast, guys, but the MAC, who is, Maction.
Maction, baby.
Get back to that Maction. Kent State, Akron, Buffalo, those schools, kind of that D1 offer for a lot of the local talent that we have here in Northeast Ohio and in the state of Ohio, whether for football or many of the fall and sports, they do a great job in the MAC. Yeah. They have canceled their season this coming season. So we're thinking, okay, it's one of those smaller conferences in Division I that you're going to start to see a little bit more. We may just have a Power 5 type season. Well, just about an hour ago, Pete Thamel of Yahoo Sports, for their college football element there at Yahoo Sports, had tweeted out saying that a source told him that Big Ten presidents were meeting, all options on the table. There's some presidential momentum for canceling the fall football season. It's unknown if there's enough support to make that decision today. And then just about 15 minutes after that, the Big Ten came out with a statement saying that they are basically putting a halt to progressing the phases of football practices being able to continue. Student athletes are only able to practice in helmets. That's the only protective element they're going to be allowed to wear. That's the phase they're in now. They have to stay that way. They were thinking about progressing in the beginning of this week. Right. And they're going to continue with that and all other fall sports. And if I'm reading this statement from the Big Ten, you can find this on their and it's being retweeted everywhere, but you can find this on the Big Ten's Twitter account. It says, I'll read the beginning of the statement. Big Ten Conference announced today, based on the advice and counsel of the Big Ten Task Force for Emerging Infectious Diseases and Big Ten Sports Medicine Committee, that until further notice, all institutions will remain in the first 2 days of acclimatization period in football, basically saying that helmets shall be the only piece of protective equipment, as we said, as we continue to transition prudently through preseason practice. All other fall sports will continue to work locally with team physicians and athletic trainers to adjust practices to the appropriate level of activity as necessary based on current medical protocols. So all sports are kind of at that same point, and they may have to adjust as more information comes out. You, as we were about to jump on, also saw a tweet from Pat Ford, right?
Pat Ford of SI.com put down, he tweeted, prominent industry source, I think by the end of the week, the fall sports will be postponed in all conferences. That is a shot heard around the world right now because, we were expecting, some possible, look at the Big Ten. The Big Ten was one of the first conferences to do away with all of non-conference games and just fully focus in on their Big Ten schedule. Now, once again, the MAC has canceled their season, just like the Ivy League has canceled their season weeks ago.
Yep. Division II, Division III, they just took away all of their championship, all their sports.
We are looking at a fall of no college. Of anything. Mm-hmm. And that is, it's shocking. It really is. Yep. We had just gotten off of our podcast. We were talking about how much I wanted, how much we all wanted Ohio State to whoop the ass of the team up north. Drop a hundy on their ass. But, and that's why I said, I was hoping it was going to be the first game of the year because at least we would be able to play that game and then worry about the rest of the schedule at that point in time. We might not even get one game in. That blows my mind. It's probably for the right call though, because if we're going to put things out there, the NFL is, they are hell bent on getting a season going. But you know why you can be hell bent on doing that and sort of disregard medical options and everything like that? Because you got insurance, you're getting paid. Yep. College, you don't get that. You don't get paid. Well, I mean, you can get paid, but for the most part, you're not getting paid.
Right.
So it's probably for the best because these kids are going to get it. I mean, we were looking at stats of Clemson. Clemson had like 40 players a couple weeks ago get COVID. And mind you, we understand, people, that just because you get COVID doesn't mean you die. But you can spread it, and it does spread like wildfire. And you can't do a bubble like the NBA does because you have 300 different schools out there and not 22 teams that can stay in at 2 Holiday Inns.
The NFL with 32 teams barely doesn't even feel like they can do a bubble.
Because they can't.
Right.
And baseball sure as hell can't. I mean, and you're looking at those guys, and they have lesser rosters than what these schools do. Once again, it's probably for the right call. And it pains me to say that because, once again, we're not going to get to see Justin Fields now. Justin Fields is gone, okay? If they don't play this year, he's not sticking around. As much as he wants to kick Michigan's ass again, he's not sticking around to play, the 2021 season. We know that. So this throws a monkey wrench into everything.
Peter, I mean, as we were reading these tweets out and kind of mentioning this, and I initially saw this as I opened up Facebook, and it was, a local website, Keon Sports, a guy that I've worked with a little bit, Vince McKee, who does a great job and really a big proponent of high school sports and doing a lot of good stuff there, of promoting that through his website, calling a lot of games. There was even mid-game, I'm doing play-by-play, and he's having me cut a opening to a sponsorship while we're at an Avon game. I'm cutting the beginning of a sponsorship read for him. He had it on there, so but we had to go to Twitter. Nothing against you, Vince. Trust me, like, I appreciate everything you've done for us. Just had to go to the sources to see what was out there. We want to do our due diligence too, as you did. Get a couple sources before we do anything with this. So as we're reading these tweets to you, Peter, and then all this information is just kind of coming out right now that not only maybe the Big Ten be gone, but all major conferences may not have sports by the end of this week. I mean, just hearing that, what do you think? Like, where do we go?
Well, a couple things went through my mind there. One is it'll be yet another year that Michigan doesn't beat us.
So, good point.
I'll say that.
It extends that tracker. That have you seen that? Ohio State clock.
The days. Yeah.
So that's a good spin.
I mean,
I like that.
I'm trying to look for the positive here.
Positive Peter.
Right. Man, it hurts because I love Ohio State football. I love watching that Saturdays. I understand why they may do it. My mind's kind of going through different scenarios here, and my thought is if they're doing this at the college level, it doesn't. I don't think that bodes well for high school sports at all.
No.
It does kind of shock me, but I mean I get it. It's this is weird. This is just a terrible year, really, for sports.
You're not lying.
Yeah, it's I don't know, man. I'm going to be gone for the next couple of days, kind of out of communication with things,
Oh, you will be out of communication.
right.
Let me tell you, there will be no service where you're going.
So I'm kind of afraid to find out what's going to, what I'm going to come back to towards the end of the week. But wow, it's something crazy, man. Yeah, it's I don't even know. I'm hoping that we have a season, but at this point, I'm not too hopeful.
So I'll just before I jump into kind of my reaction here, I'll just tell you that you will find out like the day it happens, just not at the same time, because when you get out of those trails at Hawking Hills, when you get to like one specific point at each place, wherever you guys decide to go, all of the notifications, whether if you have like the smartwatch on or you just have the phone in your pocket, you're going to feel that phone. If there's a lot going on,
it's going to blow up.
You're going to know because your phone just keeps going off. I'm just wondering how your kids, especially your younger son who's doing the Minecraft and stuff, is going to be able to go without much service down there. But that's another that might blow
another challenge right there.
That might blow your mind before your mind gets blown about no sports being in the fall. I'll just tell you that. Seeing this information, though, it just shows that it is important that we do we take drastic measures to try to make sure that this does not keep impacting seasons.
Right.
We want this all to be encapsulated into 2020. I know it's going longer than people thought, but we don't know what this is like. The last time this country saw anything like this was 1908, I believe, with the Spanish flu.
1918, I think.
1918,
Yeah,
sorry.
18,
No,
yeah.
1918 with the Spanish flu. Like, and we have much more medical advancement now, and we still can't get a hold of this because it just easily spreads. And yes, there is no way, absolutely no way for baseball or football on the professional level to do a bubble. We've seen that the bubble works. That's why sports can continue right now for the most part. MLS started it. That went off, and they only got one game left. That has gone off with no positive test. NHL is in Canada, in a bubble, no positive test.
NBA,
I think it was just a couple days ago, they had their latest round of testing. All 340 some odd guys that got tested, or people that got tested, 0 positive tests. You're getting positive tests in Major League Baseball. And those rosters, while they expanded them, are even smaller than NFL rosters. And NFL rosters are even smaller than college football rosters.
and we talk about physical contact. I
Yeah.
mean, football.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
And then you look at the other sports, even if those sports in college are a lot less people on the roster, you still have to travel for the soccer, and you have to travel for the volleyball and cross country and all of that, because there's not enough space around the country for all these schools, even in one conference, to go into a bubble. There's just too many lives at stake.
Sure.
And again, if a student athlete contracts it and they show no signs and they feel all well, still got to quarantine.
Yeah.
If they end up getting tested, but most of the people that don't feel it, young people that don't feel it, we're running out of tests, so they're keeping the tests for the people that actually feel symptoms. So if you don't feel symptoms, you may be out there and not even know it, and that's not your fault. You just don't know. So, but if one of those student athletes does that, then they pass it off to someone on their team or someone at another school. Then that goes back to another part of the country.
Yep.
Then that starts to spread, and then those student athletes take it home, or they may spread it to someone they come in contact with or close to.
You still got to go to classes. You're still dealing with people.
Right.
You know, like all throughout the day. And they're college kids. Let's
Yep.
be honest. I mean, they're younger adults that are going to want to go out and
They're
do
going to
their
be
own
naive.
thing.
Well, Lord knows I never made any poor decisions when I was in college. So.
Right.
What
Right.
decisions, college? What? No, never.
Of course.
Where's the halo at?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
There you go. Devil over on my shoulder. So, but I mean, you're 100% right. You're going to be dealing with like all of this, going
Yeah.
on. There's no way you can possibly do a bubble whenever it comes to college sports in general. Biggest question though, I mean, an elephant in the room. Will we see college football this year?
Right now, if you're asking me right now on everything that we're seeing, I'm
Yes.
saying no.
Okay.
I'm saying no.
Peter?
You know what? Before we got this news, I would have said yes.
Yeah.
But now I don't know if I'm ready to say no,
Yeah.
but I have serious doubts.
It's a fat no for me. There is no way on God's green earth they're going to let this happen, especially after the MAC canceled
Right.
today. And now the MAC isn't the SEC. It's not the Big
Right.
Ten.
See, I'm
It's
staying
not-
positive over
I,
here.
I get where you're coming from, Peter, but like it's at that point where, I mean, this is a huge step back.
Yeah.
This is, I mean, we're 3 weeks away from the first game of the year, from when we were supposed to be playing, college
Yeah.
football, and it is 3 weeks away.
Yeah.
And now you make this decision. Now you're saying, you know what? Like we gotta rethink things. We got to take a step back. Okay, then you're looking at taking at least a couple games off. I mean, there's no way you can practice, and be out there and be productive as a school, as a team, and put your best foot forward, and go out there whenever you had a week and a half of pads on. There are zero people out there, especially at the schools, like the presidents of the schools and everything like that are going to be able to be like, you know what? Yeah, I feel confident. Yeah, let's play this game. Let's go out. But that's what I'm saying. Like, there's nobody that's going to feel confident doing that. I think that's going to scare everybody. It's going to scare the hell out of everybody. And once again, the fact that you can't put these kids in a bubble just screws up everything. I say screw up everything, for right. us to have a football season. The most important thing here is everyone's health. Okay. And we can't trust 18 to 22, 23-year-old kids to stay in their dorm room and go to school and stay 6 feet away from everyone. Wear your mask. Make sure you do this. Make sure you do that. Because one player gets it, most likely it's going to be rampant throughout that team.
Right.
Yeah. And they're not, these presidents aren't confident. I mean, even Barry Alvarez at Wisconsin, according to Pro Football Talk, they shut down practice until Monday.
Yep.
And there's a quote here from Barry Alvarez, their athletic director, I believe he is over there.
Yeah.
Former Wisconsin
former coach.
Yeah. He said, in quotes, in this article on ProFootballTalk.com, says, "I'm afraid," Alvarez said, "there's so many questions that are unanswered. I see things change every day. We have so much invested. I have a grandson playing. I'm invested in every student athlete on our campus. I want them to be safe. I owe everything I have to college football. I'm the most positive person in the world." And knowing Barry Alvarez and seeing him in the past, he is one of the most positive people I've kind of ever seen, one of the most positive coaches I've ever seen. He goes on to say, "My wife said to me today, all of a sudden, you're a glass half empty. I don't like to be like that," end quote. But he is. And he has to be. Like, there's been some naive elements to how we've kind of operated and tried to move forward with these things. Yes, there's been an emphasis on staying safe, but also we've been naive. And the saddest part of this is, if college football or college sports really go away this fall, there's no way high schools can play.
Yeah.
And the toughest part, while the MAC is not, like you said, it's not the SEC. There's talented players there, and they get drafted.
Yeah.
But they're localized in their travel compared to what college football teams typically do. They may go play an SEC school, though, but it's still a far reach of travel. And you're going out of state. And again, this is a sports conversation. This is not a political conversation. No. The reality is, each state is at a different point. And there are different points even in our own state that are at different points of control or lack of control on this virus. So you're going to tell me that you can travel from Ohio to even Wisconsin, or in the SEC, you can go even Alabama to Florida, where cases are rampant, and there's not still that high risk. Like there's just especially for football and a contact sport like that, but even the other fall sports, and they're going to fall victim to whatever happens to football, because football is the main draw, football is the moneymaker. The rest of the sports are going to fall victim to it in a good way, I guess you could say, in terms of protecting the student athletes. There's just no way that these colleges can really play that I can see right now. If it changes in a week, I wouldn't be surprised either, because this changes in an instant. All of this stuff changes in an instant. But if college football, college fall sports are gone, you will not see high school sports. You will not see middle school sports. You will not see travel, anything at these levels.
No.
And it is sad, and it is a detriment to these kids' development and what they're able to do, but it's going to keep them safe. And that is a tough balance. I know it's a tough conversation for people to have, but that's probably the direction you have to go.
Quick question, then we'll end it right here. I want to know from you guys, if they cancel fall sports, will we see spring football?
There's going to be a big movement for spring football somehow, some way, at the college, maybe even the high school level, because of how big that sport is. There's going to be a push for it. You may not see in the first couple of weeks if that happens,
right?
But there's going to be a movement towards that, as probably from just general citizens, to push for lawmakers or like people that are in authority figures to make spring football, because it's that big.
Peter,
I think there's a good possibility that we'll see that, because it is the biggest thing
Yeah, I mean, biggest moneymaker as well. I 100% agree. I think that if they do cancel it, they're going to be hell-bent, just like the NFL, on putting a product out on the field at some point in time. And I think that you will definitely see them play in the spring. Hopefully, at that point in time, they're talking about vaccinations and everything like that. Hopefully at that point in time, that's distributed and that they have something out there that can help out, all these people, everyone out there. So I think that they will plan on doing it at that point in time.
Now, if fall sports get canceled and there is a push for football in the spring,
yeah,
and there's big proponents for that. I know I'm one of the few people that like soccer. I get it, but there's other fall sports like volleyball, cross country, golf, all the kids that are involved in all these types of things. So if there is a movement to push football to the spring at the college and high school level, you better rest assured that on the Voice of the Land podcast, Kevin Arnold is going to be the proponent pounding the table to make sure that there is some way for the athletes that miss out on their soccer, volleyball, golf, cross country, whatever fall sport you may think about, to have those sports along with football in the spring. As much as people may disagree and you only want football, I'm going to be pounding the table as the proponent for all of them. I want to see football too. I want to see the rest of them. Give every kid the opportunity. Don't just do it because football is the moneymaker. Be that as the catalyst for everyone else to then. These sports are going to fall victim to football being canceled.
Yep. Let
them be brought back up by football to have their seasons brought back if football comes back in the spring.
Preach. It's best way to put it.
Best way to end it, right?
That's right.
So appreciate you guys tuning in to this potential breaking news, something to keep an eye on this week, breaking news edition of the Voice of the Land podcast. We're going to have to keep an eye on Twitter at the end of each podcast because, Paul, as you and I should have learned from the beginning. Anybody that's listened from the beginning, breaking news always happens somehow, some way.
That's true.
After we leave, so we don't get to react to it. So we're going to have to keep our eye on that, and you'll probably get some more of these moving forward as well, knowing our luck. But we appreciate you tuning in. For Nick Paulus and Peter Tellup, I'm Kevin Arnold, telling all of you, keep an eye on this breaking news throughout the week. Reach out to us at VTL_pod on Twitter for all of your reactions as well. And we will have more on this come next week, which we will be back for Season 4, Episode 3, next week, Saturday, August 15th, and you'll hear it throughout the week. See ya.